Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad to welcome you as part of our community tonight. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and distributed live stream. By entering this virtual meeting room, you give your consent to be recorded and distributed by Simeon Moro EU and other third parties. If you prefer to not be recorded, please turn off your camera and microphone and/or go to the Facebook Live video feed, the link to which will now be placed in the chat room. For a better experience, please turn off your microphone and set your video to gallery view. Tonight, our featured guests are Diana Higbee, a singer and director of the Musica Le Mans Music Festival, and Edwin Huizinga, a violinist and director of the Sweetwater Music Festival. Diana, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Brava. Edwin writes, gorgeous Diana. So Diana, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an American soprano by my father and New Zealand by my mother, and I grew up in Paris, so I'm actually French as well. And my pianist is from Estonia, and we both live in Le Mans. And about 8 years ago, I moved to Le Mans after living in New York and Paris and having an international career as an opera singer. And I always dreamt of staging opera ever since I was a little kid. I was staging theater pieces. And so in 2001, when I started my career, I was also staging various operas with friends of mine. And I discovered that in Le Mans, there were, of course, no opera houses, but that the kids who were able to go to operas, had to go all the way to Massy, which is a 2-hour TGV ride. It's near Paris. And I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. I live here in Le Mans and I could do all kinds of things so that kids could listen to opera. And so that's when I decided to found the festival Musica Le Mans, so that kids in Le Mans could see opera up close. And we have a little bit of a particularity, which is that we change various mediums. So for example, this past season, we did Baroque music, but we called it Baroque as in rock and roll. And so we were all dressed in rock outfits, gold skirts and bandanas and leather and all kinds of crazy things and crazy hairdos, and big clunky jewelry. And I had a friend of mine who's a rock guitarist, female, who's quite famous here. And she rearranged a few pieces with her computer and rock guitar. So we mix styles so that people who like to go to concerts can discover rock music through Baroque music in this particular instance.
Fantastic. Wonderful. So I would like to introduce our next guest with a video. Edwin, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. What a
So
cool thing.
Edwin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Edwin Huizinga. I am a violinist, and I am here, I think, in part because I became artistic director of a really amazing music festival 2 years ago now called the Sweetwater Music Festival in Ontario, Canada. My family is Dutch, so I'm Dutch, but I'm also Canadian. And I took this festival over from a dear, dear friend of mine, Mark Fewer, who had been running the festival for about 16 years. So it is now almost 18 years old. And it happens the third week of September, and everyone is invited. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I'm really excited also to share with Diana that I've been composing a lot of opera, and I work a lot with Opera Atelier, and we have a residency every year or two in Versailles, France, and we
Oh,
play
wow.
in the chap or in the opera house there. And actually, a couple of years ago, one of we did a world premiere of one of my pieces in the Royal Chapel of Versailles, which was a huge occasion for myself. With Opera Atelier and Tafelmusik Baroque Orchestra, which was just really one of a highlight for me in France, and a reason for me to go there, you know, usually once or twice every year. So, anyways, very excited to be here. Thank you. That piece that you just heard was a arrangement of the Siete Canciones Populares that was original for voice. So what I try to do with the violin is I try to just use it as my voice. And so that was me just trying to do that with my dear friend William Coulter.
Okay, so Diana, tell us a little bit more about Le Mans and about the music scene and this festival. You said that it was mainly to educate young people?
The idea was that I actually wanted to be a pop star when I was a kid. I dreamt of Madonna a lot more than I did, let's say, Maria Callas. And so my voice teacher said to me, "Oh, I don't think you're ever going to be a pop star. You should look into opera." And I said, "Oh, opera? No, disgusting. Fat ladies with big horns on their heads." And she said, "No, no, no. You really should just go to the library and look at something." So I watched La Bohème, and it was with beautiful singers, and they were all extremely photogenic. Jose Carreras was playing Rodolfo, and I was very much in lust with Jose Carreras during that video, and I cried my eyes out, and I thought to myself, well, if this is opera, this is amazing. And so from there, I just watched every single video that was at the library of my university, and I just educated myself with that, and I thought, okay, now I know what operas can be brought to the beginner public. And so, for example, last year we did the first two operas I ever saw live, which was Carmen and the Magic Flute. And so they're smaller versions. It's only 13 people on stage for Carmen and 8 people on stage for the flute, because I don't have choir or anything like that. And it's a shortened version, and we tell the story before. So in about an hour and a half or 2 hours, the public can get the full spectrum of an opera. And as usual with this whole, the Carmen was also sort of a rock version where everyone's wearing leather jackets, and the fairy tale was more usual, but we used pop culture, sort of Japanese cartoon thematics throughout. So it was a success. It's interesting because you would think that people don't want to go to opera for even 2 hours, but they were our best-selling shows that year. And this year, the same thing. We did Così, but this time I decided to bring Così to 18th century. So we had beautiful 18th century costumes, but I got inspired by Sofia Coppola, who did Marie Antoinette in Versailles, actually. And I used to live in Versailles, so I really enjoyed that movie from that point of view as well. And so Kirsten Dunst had these incredible hairdos, and they put tennis shoes on one of the moments, and so it was a very, very pop-looking Queen of France. And so I did the same with the Così, and that was also our bestseller this year. And then we did a smaller version with only 3 characters of Traviata, with one of the most beautiful Traviatas I've ever heard in my life, who was kind enough to come to my festival. Her name is Sabine Revaud-Dallon, and she's a French singer, and she's incredible. And that was also the #2 bestseller. So it goes to show that people aren't afraid of long, even though they're not as long as when you go to the opera, but that's what people are looking for here in Le Mans. And we've been so deprived, not being able to go to theater and go to the opera house because it was closed here in France. So it was nice to see the public turn up.
Diana, and to be clear, you said that the first thing that attracted you to opera was not necessarily the pop culture, but Jose Carreras. Is that right?
Well, yes, I mean, he was very luscious in the 80s.
And so why is it that exactly that it's so important that you bring pop culture into your operas at Musica Le Mans?
I think it's something that has to do with trying to make it the way. If you look at, for example, Amadeus, the movie, it's a movie that's very present in the time that it was supposed to be set into. And I find that the problem with opera is that we have this image that it's for intellectuals. But when I started the festival, I actually put David Bowie, Radiohead, and Muse on a quartet, just to show that music was just as difficult when you hear it with a soprano and a quartet as perhaps Mozart might be. And so the idea is that if Bizet had composed Carmen last year, we wouldn't be wearing costumes from that era. We would be wearing costumes of today. So what I'm interested in is just showing that if you want to talk about feminicide, which is a very current issue, I mean, we lose, women die because their husbands kill them or their boyfriends kill them on a daily basis. Here in France, I think it happens all over the world. And so it's important for me to just be into the fact that opera, it doesn't matter if it was composed in the 19th, 18th, 17th century, it's still stories that speak to us now. And so by putting it into actual times, it brings it more to reality for people who might not know it. And La Bohème, in this particular case, was a very, even though it was not supposed to be in the 20th century, the costumes were very modern looking as well. And I think I could relate really well to that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So, Diana, would you be willing to sing us something else?
Sure. Actually, on va faire Voi che sapete. So it's Cherubino from Marriage of Figaro. And so I like to tell the story for people who don't know, because there's always someone who doesn't know. So it's a 16-year-old boy who's got all kinds of hormones, and he's in love with everyone in the palace. And so he's just telling Susanna, the maid, you who know what love is, can you please explain to me why I'm so hot sometimes, so cold sometimes? When I look at a woman, I blush, and I'm feeling all these things, and it's absolutely crazy, but I also like it a lot.
Okay, that's an introduction. Brava, wonderful, fantastic. So before I bring in Edwin for our next conversation, another video. Edwin, so tell us a little bit about the Sweetwater Music Festival and how you got involved.
Well, the Sweetwater Music Festival is a classical, jazz, and world music festival. It's 1 week long. Um, I was invited to audition and apply for the artistic director job, and I then was consequently invited to follow through and become the artistic director. So for that, I'm very grateful. There's yeah, it's an incredible uh, just it's a dream of mine to be able to be in a position to invite many of my world-class musician and artist friends to play in this amazing town um, in Ontario. It's called Owen Sound. And yeah, so we've had some incredible artists. As I said before, it's now 18 years old, this festival. Um, and so, yeah, it's one of the things like we did this past year is we did all of our concerts outdoors. And we invited some incredible a string quartet to do concerts of kind of spanning 300 years of classical music. And then we also had one of my dear friends and amazing soprano, Misha Brugger-Gosman, and she did actually a jazz concert for us. And I have known Misha for many years. I write for her, and we work together kind of all around the world. And so that was an incredible thing to bring this amazing opera singer to the festival, but she was actually doing a jazz concert. I did send you a clip of that. We might hear just a moment of that later in this hour, so that's exciting. But yeah, so it's the whole idea behind this festival is to bring incredible international artists to this local community to celebrate music and community. And I think we are on for an incredible festival this coming year in 2021 in September. I have some amazing artists, including some Aboriginal Canadian artists, some another fantastic string quartet. We're bringing in my friend Philip Chu, who's an incredible virtuoso pianist, who you saw just now in that little teaser video. He's from Montreal, and he's an incredible Canadian musician. So yeah, that's a little bit about Sweetwater.
Okay,
Thank you.
Edwin, and tell us, so you said you were invited to audition for the artistic director position. So did you go and you played the violin, or what does it mean? And when you were chosen to be the artistic director, was it because you had a mission? We had the general manager of the Orchestre National de Lyon who came on our show some weeks ago, and she said in order for her to apply for the position, she had to give them a vision of several years about what she wanted to accomplish already just to before she would be interviewed.
Yes, yes. So I was invited to apply, and that basically just means that you're made aware of the application. And then I was, there were many things I had to do: a resume, a curriculum vitae. I sent them, videos and things that I've done over the last 10 years, it's not so important how I play the violin in this particular role. It's much more about the entrepreneurship and directorships and things that I've done in my life so far. I've founded a couple of ensembles. I have started my own series and festivals in the past. I'm part of the artistic leadership team of an international festival in California called the Carmel Bach Festival, which is another thing that I do a lot of and has given me a lot of experience in that world. Um, and then one of the things that is, I think, very important in that audition process or application process is your vision for the next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then having the board of directors of the festival um, appreciate you and talk about things that they would like to see and how you work together. And I mean, it's a family affair. We have an incredible board, and I think that the vision is unbelievably important. So everything, all the stars aligned, and I was chosen for the job. I mean, I know several colleagues also applied, and they're all absolutely incredible. So it was also a little bit, I'm very fortunate to have been chosen. And one of the things that I pride myself in as an artist is I work a lot with my close community. So I never feel like I make too many decisions on my own. I think it's always so important to ask all of your friends and colleagues. And just recently, I had a Zoom with all of my artists, and we brainstormed about my vision for the repertoire of the festival. And we all talked about it. And I thought that was just beautiful to get everyone's opinion and talk about everyone's individual ideas and making sure we all felt heard and loved and appreciated. And so those kinds of things are really important to me to keep it sort of a very community project.
Okay, understood. So before we get to our next roundtable, Diana, would you be willing to sing us something else?
Yes. I just thought it was interesting what you were saying about close friends, because that's exactly how I work with my festival as well, is that the people who come on the festival, they come for two reasons. First reason is they think it's really great to bring opera to the masses in a sort of fun, different way. And because we're all friends and we eat great food and we have fun with the music. So it's nice to hear that you're doing the same. So now it's Carmen, and love is a bird. And if you try to catch it, it will fly away, but if you let it alone, it will come to you.
Brava, lovely. So, Diana, then we come to our first roundtable discussion, which is what are the mission or missions of a music festival? So Diana, you've been telling us a little bit, it was about bringing opera to young people of Le Mans. What is your artistic vision then for this festival? Does that mean, like you said, including pop culture, bringing up contemporary political themes like domestic violence? What is it exactly? What, if you would state your mission, what would you like to accomplish with this music festival?
What's interesting is that since I founded it, it's very trial and error based. So when I started out, I thought that we were going to do mostly concerts, and I realized that that people loved these concepts that I was doing. I don't know if people are familiar with the composer Gainsbourg. He's a French pop artist. When I was a young kid, I heard a Chopin piece, and I thought it was some Muzak that had been created because I only knew the Gainsbourg version of this. And then I realized that he stole pieces to make his pop songs. And so at first it started out with this, just playing with the fact that we're not an elite. Yes, we play, especially, violinists. I'm always so impressed with how hard it is to play in tune and beautifully and the legato and all that stuff. And we opera singers, even though I had a very strong background in music because my parents were both musical, most opera singers discover a voice around 18 years old, and so maybe don't really know that much about solfege. And so what attracts us to opera usually for opera singers is either the story or the music, and the fact that somewhere in here is something worthwhile to work on. And so the artistic vision, it took a while to get to where we are now. And so it's like a recipe that I've put together now. It's that the opening night is sort of a cabaret style, usually in French, because the fact that it's in the French language speaks directly to the public that's never heard it, and I don't have surtitles, so they don't know exactly what we're talking about. The second night is a gala, so it's 10 people on stage usually, with all kinds of different repertoire. So it was Baroque this year, and the year before that was French opera. I tried to choose French opera so that people, once again, would understand what we were talking about. And then this just sort of happened that it's a full opera on the Saturday. And then we have a morning thing, which we also want to show people that we stuffy, serious musicians actually have a blast together, and that once we're home, or when we're in the shower, we're not necessarily talking about Proust and a philosophy major conversation. With it's usually we're just having fun and having a great time, and we're pulling out Broadway tunes or the latest pop song by Lady Gaga. And so on the Sunday morning, we show the behind the scenes concert. So it's all the artists just come with any kind of piece. It's not rehearsed, and it doesn't cost very much money, so it's one of the favorites as well. And so people just come and they're just amazed that, you know, sometimes they're literally like pulling out the score on their telephones and singing the chorus while someone else is singing. And people are just amazed by that. And then in the evening, so now it's either going to be a small form of opera or maybe another concert, because I'm sort of on the fence on that. But I finally found the formula that works and that sort of goes crescendo. And so when we end the last concert is an hour and a half, I really like nailed that down so that people are still dying for more a year later. And then the positive aspect of all of this is that the festival is just becoming really big now, because I have 4 other dates in another town at a castle called Malicorne. And there's going to be 4 other dates in the countryside, because people are really into it. They all thought that it would be stuffy and boring, and they're realizing that we actually have a great time when we're all together. So they like to participate, and we even let them dance. We have a small dance floor, so if they want to dance while we're singing, they can do that, and the kids can run around. So
And
I think the vision is just to get people not necessarily into the theater, because I do everything outdoors when it's not raining, but just out and to be, yeah, to travel to beautiful things and to sort of forget the daily routine.
tell us, and you mentioned that your participants maybe believe that opera is stuffy and boring. How do you know who they are? How do you keep in touch with them? How do you locate them and get them to the festival? How do you get their feedback?
So that's the one thing I have a couple of qualities, and the one major quality that I have is people feel like they can talk to me. So sometimes they say not so nice things like, "Oh, I didn't like that dress on Friday," or "I preferred last year," whatever. But I sort of like that. And to be frank, my ambition a few years ago when I started was that everyone would go to the opera. That was my ambition. I wanted everyone to go to the opera. And so a couple of years ago, two people came to me and said, "So we loved your festival last year so much that we decided to go to the Paris Opera." And I said, "Oh, that's great." So I thought, "Oh, I've won. You know, I've managed to get people into the opera house." And they said, "Yeah, we hated it." I said, "Oh dear." I said, "But we love Musica, so we'll keep coming to see your shows." So maybe the goal is more to I'm just an entertainer at this point. If people had a great time, then I've won.
Fantastic. Well, also inspiring to know that you are in many ways more in touch with the opera public than the opera institutions of Paris. Fantastic. So, Edwin, tell us a little bit about what is the mission of a music festival? What are the missions? Do you agree with Diana? Apparently, you can disagree, and
Oh,
she has no problem with hearing that.
I love to hear what you're doing, Diana. I think it's amazing. Um, my whole career has been based on bringing the music that I love and my colleagues of ensembles that I've sort of created and found to bring it to people that I know would love it. And music is such an international language, and it's so desperately necessary. So I think the more ways that we can find, and no one is the same. I think there's a place for everything that we're doing. There's a place for the Paris Opera. There's a place for what Diana is doing, and the festival that I'm directing, Sweetwater. It's kind of a mixture of both of these sort of kind of more formal concerts and then otherwise. So I mean, my mission for this festival, for example, is like we do pop-up concerts, which are outside in the farmers market where we're just like, ta-da! Here is a incredible, you know, Beethoven string quartet in the middle of a farmers market, and come with your kids. It's free. Bring a picnic, and then we might do some other arrangements of fun music. I love the Danish string quartet, and they've done some incredible music. So sometimes we play some of their music. And then, we always have a sort of a classical revolution style event where everyone brings their instruments and we sight read a string serenade or something like that. I founded the Classical Revolution with a dear friend of mine in San Francisco about 13 years ago, and it became kind of a big sort of international movement, which is so exciting. And that mission was just bringing classical music into the popular situations of any kind, whether it was a bar or a cafe or a gallery or on the street. And then I also there's a big program in my festival for young kids and up and coming artists and virtuoso people, where we bring them in to do just like shadow the professionals and get coachings and lessons. And we also bring our artists into schools because one of our huge things that we have to do as artists and directors is educate our young people. And music is taken out of so many educational situations. So one of my missions with the festival and as a person and human on this earth is to bring it back into any situation that involves kids and education and anything like that. So many things go into it. And one of the big things that helps me run the festival too is our unbelievable volunteers. We have like, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 volunteers that do all kinds of things for us, including help plan the after parties for every event, which involves sometimes alcoholic beverages or non-alcoholic beverages, and we have potlucks. And it's kind of like Diana was saying, it's all about, for me, it's an event. It's not a concert, it's an event, and people want to come celebrate and be themselves and meet people and say, oh, you love music? I love music. And
Edwin,
it's just
could you
those things are important.
define event for us? What does that mean to you?
Of course, Simeon, thank you. So the thing that I work hard on as a curator is that it's not like 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., but you come and you're invited in and you are offered something to feel comfortable. And then there's some discussion and there's an introduction. And then in the intermission, if there is one, it's celebratory occasion that has also been curated. And then after the concert, there's room to discuss and congregate and become familiar with each other and meet the musicians and meet the artists. And it becomes much more about the whole evening. So that's what I mean by event.
Okay, understood. And now I'd like to take a look at a video about the outreach done by the Sweetwater Music Festival.
Hi everyone, my name is Antonia and I'm so excited to be part of the Sweetwater Festival this year. This is my 11th year playing the cello, and I've been fortunate enough to play in all sorts of different settings, from orchestras to chamber ensembles to pit band, even on stage on TV. Today I will be performing a piece called Giulio by Mark Summer. It's a contemporary cello piece which uses a lot of interesting techniques such as left-hand pizzicato, strumming, and slapping the fingerboard. I really enjoy this piece because not only is it fun and catchy, with a lot of interesting syncopated rhythms, it also shows how versatile of an instrument the cello is, and it can be used in many different styles, not just classical music. Enjoy!
Okay, so Diana, maybe could you comment? Are you doing any kind of these outreach programs? Are you planning on getting your participants actively involved in music making?
Absolutely. We've been doing concerts for high school students. Well, not this year, but the past year, 2019 and early 20. We were doing outreach. So basically explaining opera. I did something called the Passion of Opera. And I have another one that's called the 420 Years of Opera. And we also work with handicapped, maybe that's not how you say it in English anymore. But anyway, people who are in disability situations. And we also work with people who have psychiatric problems. And we've realized that that music is just it's like a medication for the soul. And when I started with the psychiatric patients, the people who worked with them told me, don't be surprised, probably all of them are going to leave in the middle of your concert. And they all stayed. And they were really happily surprised. And I was too, because of course I was expecting that they should be right. And we also work with people who are refugees. So we do about 12 concerts per year, and they're completely free of charge. It's a partnership we have with them. And we're hoping in the next year to do the same with smaller children and junior high students.
Okay, fantastic. Anything to add, Edwin?
No, that's very exciting. I think that the whole topic of multi-generational right now is very hot, and I just love to see a concert that we can present, I can present, Diana, you can present, that does just really allow for like 95-year-old and the 4-year-old and the 17-year-old, and that's kind of a really beautiful thing because music, I think, has the potential to reach anyone. And it's so interesting to me that music is like the most important part of a children's life, you know, when they're born and before they're born, and those few first very formative years. And then when you're much older and you're kind of in the last, you know, several years of your life, I feel like the many people that I know in that situation are just constantly with music. And then, you know, life happens in between, of course, but I think that the more we create incredibly tactile and authentic art for all of us, the more we will sort of be able to continue celebrating music and art in our lives.
Okay, so I'd like us to get Diana's comment on this video, a crossover video from the Sweetwater Music Festival.
sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
So Diana, this kind of crossover, is that also a part of Musica Le Mans?
Absolutely. Well, it's just amazing, Edwin, because you and I are on the same wavelength. This past festival, we sang that twice at two different events. But it was completely impromptu. It wasn't practice. It was just one of those after parties that we had. But yeah, we love that. And it was just sort of a surprising thing that happened because it was one of our donors who pulled out a guitar. I didn't even know he knew how to play the guitar, and all of a sudden he and his wife sang us a song. And so they sang one song that I didn't really know, but it was absolutely beautiful. And then they asked the soprano who was singing the first show if she knew any other songs that were similar. And so they said, what about Amazing Grace? And she said, oh, I could do Amazing Grace. And there we were listening to our star soprano sing Amazing Grace in her chest voice. So it was, yeah, it's just, I like what Edwin says about it. It's just magical moments that they say that happiness is a construction of many things, and mainly memories, and that it's just as important to anticipate, for example, a trip somewhere or a concert somewhere or a visit to a museum as it is to actually be at the concert, on the trip, or in the museum. And we're building memories right now, for very selfishly for myself, but I think for a whole community, and that whole thing about the international aspect of music, that we just understand each other. And we had he's French, but he's also from Gabon, Christian Rodrigue, who is an opera singer at the Paris Opera, and he was singing Germont in Traviata. And so the last evening, the guitar got pulled out again by the same patron, and there is Christian on the guitar singing us a Gabonese song about a bird who doesn't sing in tune. But we didn't understand a single word, but we understood the song because it was beautifully executed. So it's these things that you don't understand. I've been to China, and people start playing, and I'll just start singing, and we don't know what happens, but something, a miracle happens. And that's the beautiful thing about music, is you don't actually have to speak the language to be able to sing or play together.
Okay, so this brings us to our last roundtable discussion of the evening. When Diana and Edwin hand over their directorships to the next generation, what do they want to have achieved, and what do they wish their successors? Why don't we start with you, Edwin?
Wow. I love these questions, like long form questions. I think it would behoove us all to think in a multi-generational way for a lot of what we do in our lives. And I love to think about, okay, where do I want this festival to be in 10 years? And where do I want this festival to be in 100 years? And where do I want this festival to be in 500 years? You know, it's like so much of what we do and we say and we are part of is so small. That's why I love these world organization things that involve like the 100-year project with this library that's happening, I think, in Belgium. Anyways, so as someone that just very recently took the mantle of this festival, I already see ways that the younger generation is doing incredible things. So my job over the next several years, I think, is to continue to inspire all of those young people. And sorry, got a phone call. Sorry about that. Continue to inspire all the people, and then what I hope is to just at some point move on to a project and give them the ability to, again, make all of their dreams come true and make things happen, and they have a total other Rolodex of people and artists and community and ideas. And so yeah, I always like to think about the future, the past, the present, and hopefully stimulate the younger generation to be involved.
Understood. Diana, what would you like to have achieved, and what do you wish your successors?
Um, I have to say that 2021 made me realize how important it was to be in the present, because I always had all these ambitions for the future. Um, I I used to want the festival to be huge, and to in France we have a festival called the Festival d'Aix-en-Provence where I started. That's where I started my career on an international level, and I was really hoping that Musica Le Mans would become an international festival with very, very famous people that would come and perform. But I've changed my axe a bit there, because for the past 5 years, so we've existed for six, but for the past 5 years, I've been choosing new artists that we believe in. So each year, one of them gets a stipend, and in exchange, they have to write that they are the Young Opera Musica Le Mans Festival hope for the future. And so my hope is exactly what Edwin said, is that we can just, I would like this to be more of a stepping stone kind of a festival where people do a role for the first time, that people are pushed and promoted for the first time. I have a TV show here in Le Mans. It's a local network. And so I'm putting various artists on the TV show so that they can, it's a trade kind of a thing. They come and they record their five best arias, and it becomes a TV show that people can watch. So we're outreaching to the TV. But they also, because as young singers, it costs a fortune. I mean, you can do it on a telephone, but it's not quite the same as when you have a proper crew filming you and recording you. And so they can leave with something that they can put on their website and possibly find an agent. So I'm at this point in my career, I'd like the festival to be something that can promote young artists to become the great artists that they can be. And we're also looking into maybe doing not really a competition, it would be an introduction to agents, so that it's sometimes difficult to, you can be a great singer but be the worst competition taker. So since we know that these artists are, because I also work with people who are really nice and easy to work with and very professional, so maybe introduce also artists to agents so that they can then fly on to do great things. And there's always this, hand it forward. So I hope that, as Edwin said, that whoever takes over the festival in, I think it's going to be 20 years, that they also have that vision of promoting young singers. And I think it's a crazy beast. This thing is that you do something, as they say, if you build it, they will come. Uh, it's a very surprising thing that happens, where you just think you're just doing something for the kids in the city where you live, and then all of a sudden people just come to you and ask you to do more and more things. And I just hope that, because I have created things in the past and then I've moved to a different city, and the person who's taken over didn't necessarily have the same charisma, let's say. And it's not something that I'm proud of, it's just how it works. And I was very sad to see these two other ventures disappear. So I'm sort of grooming a few people into taking over, that I see the potential in them. So I'm also, because I was not thinking about that in the past. So that's also the vision that you need to have, that the person who's going to take over is as ambitious. And in French, we say fédérateur, someone who brings everyone together, because that's also one of the most important qualities, I think, in running something, is that you have, it's not that people like you, it's that they want to do things. And that's what I need to find for the person who will take over.
Okay, so thank you so very much to Diana Higbee, and thank you so much to Edwin Huizinga.
Thank you so much, Simeon, for having us.
Thank you.
So let's see how we can stay in touch with Diana and Edwin. Here we have Edwin's webpage here, edwinhuizinga.com. So Edwin, in order to stay in touch with you, we just have to go maybe to the bottom, I'm not sure.
Yes, somewhere in there is my email, so you'll find it if you need it.
Okay. Maybe it's about me. Click there. Okay. Anyways, I will give this to everybody.
Amazing.
I will share that. And then let's take a look at Diana's. There it is, musica-le-mans.france.
Yeah,
And Diana, we can
there's a contact form there, and you can get in touch, and you can also send us an email.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to right now put those in the chat box. There you have both of their websites, Diana and Edwin's website. So again, thank you so very much, Edwin, and thank you, Diana. So coming up next week, we have Preludio, audio production and musical creativity. Music has subliminal powers. It can change our mood without us even noticing. Andrea Thomas Gombetti, CEO of Preludio, has created the music, voices, and sound effects for some of Italy's most influential commercials and soundtracks. Andrea invites us on a VIP tour inside the Preludio workshop and will show us just what music magic is all about. Come welcome Andrea to our show. As always, all information about upcoming shows is available at www.simeonmoro.com. Again, that's next Wednesday, Preludio, audio production, and musical creativity. So once again, thank you so very much to Diana and to Edwin. Thanks very much to Maurice Hissing for his support of this show. And most of all, thanks to you, our participants, who make it all worthwhile. From Vienna, Austria, Le Mans, France, and Yosemite National Park, goodbye and see you next Wednesday.